The room was dim, with the cigarette smoke curling into the stale air. Laughter punctuated the murmurs as a bunch of politicians and business tycoons leaned over the tables, their voices low, discussing plans that would never see the light of the day. Strategizing plans, evil plans to cripple and sink the country economy. Seated at the end was Jack N. He glanced down at his lap. A small sealed envelope had been slipped into his hand without anyone noticing. He looked at it closely. It was black letter, red-threaded, and he knew what this symbol meant, and he didn't like it. He felt the chill run through him, but kept his face impassive. Quietly, he folded it, slipped it into his pocket, and joined the others in their laughter as if nothing was the matter. Black letter was bad news. Jack N. knew that, and he feared for his life. The chairman leaned forward, his sharp gaze fixed on him. He was shifting in his seat since the meeting began. His fingers drummed lightly on the table, eyes darting around the room like he was waiting for something or someone. "Bro, you all right?" The chairman's voice cut through the low hum of conversation. Jack straightened, forcing a smile. "Nothing much, just chillin'," he replied, keeping his tone even, his hand steady on the table. But his mind flicked back to the letter he hadn't dared to open yet. Balls of fear and apprehension were colliding in his stomach. The chairman's eyes lingered on him for a moment, then nodded, picking up his papers. "Right. Moving on. I have got good news, ladies. As you know, the government is planning a mega highway stretching across the western Kenya." A murmur went around the table. Eager faces leaned in, eyes gleaming. "And the tender, my guys, is already set," he announced, his voice smooth and laced with smug assurance. He paused, letting his gaze sweep over the room before resting on Jack N. with a knowing smirk. "One of our own, Jack N. here, will be awarded the tender in Phase 1. He chuckled. "After all, we know this is a government of shareholders, right? You know, your influence in politics is your power. Bring masses to us. We put taxes in your pockets." A few in the room laughed, while others nodded, feigning approval. Jack N. tried to join in, forcing a tight smile as eyes turned his way, but the laughter felt distant. Beneath the table, he clenched his fist, unable to ignore the prickling sweat tracing a slow path down his back. The meeting pressed on, voices buzzing about corrupt government deals, drug smuggling, kickbacks. But his thoughts stayed trapped on that letter in his pocket. He didn't need to open it to know it was a threat. Serious threat. A threat to his life. The chairman gestured to the secretary, who stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Next, we have Mr. B, our esteemed partner in the car import business. He'll be sharing his insights about creative financial crook methods, mining billions, escaping justice. Remember, we're in government to make money. To hell with Mwananchi developments," he said, a knowing look crossing his face. "That's pretty much it." All agreed in unison. Mr. B adjusted his court and stepped forward, flashing a quick smile at the room. "What's up, homies? Fantastic. We all know sometimes cash flow needs a little nudge." Giggling rippled through the room, and Jack joined in, his mouth moving without thought. But the smile seemed distant, drowned by the heavy thud of his own heartbeat. The walls seemed to close in, the air thickening as B's voice droned on, explaining the latest techniques for moving money under the radar. Wash deals in wake of digital age. But Jack was somewhere else, his mind circling the unknown doom waiting in his pocket. The words around him had blurred into a low, indistinct hum. He watched the chairman's lips move, the gestures passing from one person to the next, but he was far from present. But forced himself to tune back in, catching Mr. B mid-sentence as he presented with his usual self-assured grin. "So, like I was saying," he continued, leaning back, "you don't have to worry about the money trail if you've got your proxies set up right. I've been running things this way for years." Mr. Jack blinked, catching up. He caught the flicker of interest in their eyes, their fingers dancing across tablet screens, eager to capture every word that fell from Mr. B's mouth. Now, the presentation had everyone in the room hooked. Jack tried to match their enthusiasm, but his thoughts kept slipping back to the letter, the concealed message, the awaiting doom. Mr. B's voice grew louder, snapping him back to the present. The trick is to layer your companies. Mr. B grabbed a marker and turned to the whiteboard, drawing a quick outline of a car. He tapped it with the marker and smirked. I use my dealership as the face. On paper, it's clean. Just another successful business, he said, underlining the word legitimate. But here's where it gets interesting. He drew a stack of cash beside the car. Government clients bring me their dirty money, bribes, kickbacks, embezzled funds. I run it through the business. Fake sales, inflated prices, ghost transactions. He circled the cash. Once it moves through my books, it's spotless, legal, no red flags. Then he leaned back, tapping the board with the marker. They get clean money, I get my cut. Simple, effective, untouchable. And behind it, though, we've got several layers of smaller companies that don't exist to anyone but the paperwork. They take the heat off the main operation. Several nods went around the room. Jack could see them nodding in agreement, some even glancing at each other with quiet admiration. He clenched his jaw, trying to keep his face neutral. A hand went up near the end of the table, and a heavy-set man leaned forward. And this keeps you clean? No government interference? Mr. B shrugged. As long as the books are kept tight, it's airtight. Plus, our friends in the president's office have a way of diverting attention when needed. Laughter rippled through the room, a few men glancing at each other knowingly. Mr. B held up a finger, his face serious. But you've got to be careful. One mistake and you'll be rotting in committee for years, he warned, leaning in, eyes glinting with mock seriousness. Then he let out a loud, rumbling laugh. But come on, we all know with enough cash, you can get away with anything. Our courts are greedy and corrupt. Throw some money around and justice disappears. What an amazing country. He let out a sarcastic laughter, his voice echoing off the walls. A young man wearing a sharp gray suit raised his hand. So, Buona B, about the proxies, how do you make sure the crazy guys at Anti-Corruption House, don't start sniffing around, asking too many questions? He laughed, a dry sound that grated in young man's ears. Ah, a good question. That's why you pick carefully. Some proxies are just names on paper, ghost directors. They're easier to manage. But if you need someone hands-on, pay them enough to keep them loyal. Money is everything. Use money to make money. Another hand shot up, an older woman with silver hair. And what if these idiots come for your ass? He leaned forward, a smile spreading across his face. That's the beauty of layers. By the time they get past the first few shells, the money's long gone. Shifted to another business, another name. He tapped the table, emphasizing his point. And all they find are traces, nothing solid enough to stick. And if they keep pressing, you delete them from Earth database. The room buzzed, the atmosphere thick with excitement and whispered schemes. Mr. Jack watched them talking openly about evading the very laws they had sworn to uphold. It was surreal. He had always thought of himself as skillful about covering his tracks. But listening to B, he wondered if he was smart or just a lucky bastard. Mr. B moved on, pointing to a diagram he had sketched out on a whiteboard, lines connecting fake businesses to their parent companies. Mr. B smirked, tapping the whiteboard with the marker. Listen up. If you want to clean dirty money the right way, you need a system, a foolproof one. And lucky for you, I've got the blueprint. He turned, drawing the outline of a church, tall steeple, open doors. First, churches. The bigger the better. Mega churches are the perfect laundromats. You donate a few million, make it public, shake a few hands, pose for pictures. The pastor blesses you, thanks you for your generosity. Behind closed doors, he deposits the cash, issues a clean receipt, and just like that, your dirty money is now heaven's gift. Somebody say, hallelujah. He chuckled, stepping back. And the best part? No one audits churches. No one questions the Lord's work. You see why this is a gold mine? He turned back to the board, this time sketching the outline of buildings. Now, real estate. This one's simple. You buy properties, apartments, hotels, malls, pay in cash. No bank transactions, no records that trace back to your dirty dealings. Just bricks, paperwork, and the illusion of a legit investment. He capped the marker, letting his words sink in. So, gentlemen, if you're looking to wash your money and keep it clean, remember, churches for blessings, real estate for assets. Do it right, and you'll never have to worry about the tax man or the law. He stepped away, hands in his pockets. Any questions? High turnover, high value makes it easy to hide. He was explaining, tapping the board. One of the men, a sharp-eyed parliamentarian, raised a hand. So, you're saying as long as the business looks legitimate, no one asks questions? Exactly, he replied smoothly. But it's about the flow. Too much in one place, and you raise suspicion. Spread it around. Make it look natural. They nodded, murmuring amongst themselves, already calculating ways to implement his techniques. Someone else raised a hand. And what about the paperwork? Do you ever worry one of these proxies can backfire? Mr. B shrugged. I keep things tight. Minimal paperwork. I've a trusted team who handle everything. Nothing on my desk that could be traced back. Plus, remember, am highly connected. Nothing to worry about. More approval nods ensued. The round of laughter had hardly died down when Ms. H, the Nairobi women's rep, stood up, giving the group her most charming smile. She adjusted her scarf, the fabric shimmering under the fluorescent lights, and cleared her throat. All eyes turned her way, expectant and curious. Let me tell you, she began with a smirk, leaning her manicured nails against the table. Mr. Handsome here is absolutely right. Strategizing is the key. You need to implement smart plan. Mine's a bit more, let's say complex, but ingenious. She chuckled, and a few others joined in, intrigued. Yeah, I run an escort business, she announced boldly, her grin widening as some of the men exchanged amused looks. She gave a little wave, as if brushing off the scandal of it all. Best way to keep the cash flowing and nobody suspects a thing. A few heads turned, eyebrows raised in half disbelief, half amusement. Ms. H seemed entirely unbothered by the stunned silence that followed. Instead, she leaned forward conspiratorially, her voice lowering to a whisper. These university girls, she continued, they are desperate, you know? They need cash for rent, tuition, and they got ass but not grass. You men's appetite for this thing, oh my God. She rolled her eyes, waving her hand dismissively. So, I bring them in, introduce them to horny men. It's barter trade. Give a thing, get a thing. 5 seconds of pleasure for some good cash. Amusing laughter rippled across the room. She paused, a gleam in her eye. I love this job. My poor beautiful girls get nothing but pennies. I pocket everything. And when my clients no longer need their services, she shrugged nonchalantly. I chase them away, feeling used and abused. No attachments, no questions. It's good business. Someone in the back snickered, and Ms. H laughed too, a hearty, unrestrained laugh that rang out across the room. What's the big deal? Never stepped foot in university, but I got money. Why should I care if their dreams crumble? That's their problem, not mine. She tapped the stack of papers in front of her. Money is what matters, and let me tell you, it's good money from old trade and history, the kind that buys you big cars, soft life. It's hustling, she added, lifting her chin slightly, almost defiantly. Her words hung in the air, and a few more chuckles broke out around the table. One man shifted in his seat, giving her an appreciative nod. The others muttered in approval as though she had just laid out the business plan of the century. Jack couldn't help but watch with faint amusement. She was determined to chase the bag. She took her seat, a satisfied grin stretching across her face. And the room broke into laughter. Some were clapping softly, others murmuring. She folded her hands in front of her, clearly pleased with the reaction. But when the laughter settled and the silence seeped back into the room, the chairman leaned forward, his face serious, though a faint smile played on his lips. He adjusted the microphone, his voice calm but with a teasing edge. Ms. H, he began, looking her way with raised eyebrows. I believe what you have just talked about is called prostitution, and, well, you know, it's hell not legal?" He paused, letting the words sink in as the room held its breath, then burst into laughter once more. Ms. H gave a mock-offended gasp, her hand flying to her chest, but she grinned, her eyes flashing with amusement as the laughter filled the room again. She didn't seem bothered in the slightest. In fact, she looked rather pleased with herself. "Hey, it's all about the hustle," she replied with a shrug, smirking as the laughter continued. Jack glanced across the table as the chuckles subsided, only for someone else. A middle-aged man with a slightly crooked tie and a face still flushed from laughing, leaning forward to shout, "Damn! You hot, babe. Just requesting permission to tap it. You know, the bum-bum." More laughter swelled the room. The laughter was just beginning to settle when a tall, broad-shouldered man stood from his seat. He walked with purpose, cutting through the amused chatter and bringing an immediate shift in the room's energy. It was the chief whip,